The world's most strange and terrifying women may seem unbelievable, but they're real. Women are often considered a gift of life for men, yet the women in this video are undoubtedly the most peculiar and frightening women in the world. Certainly, when you watch, you won't believe it, but these are true stories. The woman who woke up after a 32-year sleep. Carolina Olsen is a testament to the human body's ability to recover and the mysterious nature of sleep disorders. During an astonishing 32-year period, Carolina Olsen, a Swedish woman born in the 19th century, slept continuously, baffling the medical community and captivating the public imagination. A mysterious long sleep. Carolina Olsen, born in 1842 in Sweden, lived an extraordinary life with a perplexing sleep disorder. At the age of 13, she fell into a deep sleep and slept for the next 32 years of her life. Her condition attracted attention from the medical community and the public, sparking numerous theories and speculations about the underlying cause as well as potential remedies. Throughout the decades of prolonged sleep, Carolina Olsen's family cared for her tirelessly, hoping that one day she would wake up. Her case garnered widespread attention, and she was dubbed the Sleeping Beauty of the woods of Sweden. To this day, the strange story of Carolina's life remains a major enigma for the scientific community, prompting eerie thoughts that some mystical force may have been at play. Medical experts from various fields were puzzled by her condition, as it challenged conventional understanding of sleep disorders and pushed the limits of human recovery capabilities. Despite the physical and mental toll that her condition took on her family, Carolina Olsen's steadfast presence before the public eye fueled scientific curiosity and spurred research into understanding the complexities of sleep and its impact on human health. Her case remains a haunting reminder of the mysterious realm of sleep disorders and their often misunderstood nature. The causes of a 32-year sleep. The Olsen family was poor and lived on an isolated island without a doctor. Initially, they sought help from the small surrounding community. Due to poverty and inability to afford a doctor, neighbors pooled money to have a doctor visit her. After examining her, the doctor concluded that she had fallen into a coma and needed further examination. He continued to visit and check on Carolina for another year, during which he tried to persuade the medical community to help and find a way to treat her. Many doctors visited the Olsen family and examined Carolina. One surprising fact was that her hair and nails seemed not to have grown during that time. Furthermore, she did not lose weight despite her diet consisting of only 2 glasses of milk a day. In the 6th year of Carolina's sleep, in 1882, her parents moved her to the city of Oskarshamn after a doctor suggested treatment with electric shock to revive her. A month later, when her condition did not improve, her parents took Carolina back home. The doctor pointed out that they could do nothing for her, and the family just needed to wait and pray for a miracle to happen. Clarifying the cause behind Carolina Olsen's unprecedented sleep period was a challenging task for medical experts of that time. Various hypotheses were proposed, including those related to neurological conditions, psychological trauma, and endocrine imbalances. A common hypothesis at the time was that Carolina Olsen's sleep was a result of a condition called hysterical catatonia, a condition characterized by periods of immobility and stupor. While this explanation sparked widespread debate, it couldn't provide comprehensive insight into her condition, as it didn't account for the unusually long durations of her sleep stages. During Carolina's deep sleep, her parents experienced much anxiety. When their daughter didn't wake up after days of lying in bed and they couldn't rouse her, they sought medical help. The lack of specific knowledge surrounding Carolina Olson's case highlighted the challenges that medical experts faced in diagnosing and treating complex and rare sleep disorders. It also underscored the importance of continuous research and advancements in sleep medicine to shed light on such unique cases and provide solutions for those affected by similar conditions. Her condition sparked a wave of scientific inquiry and exploration, leading to a deeper understanding of sleep disorders and their physiological and psychological impacts. Her case opened doors to exploring the complexity of sleep patterns, the role of the brain, and factors influencing the sleep-wake cycle. Awakening. Many years later, one of her brothers passed away, and she was seen crying, but there were no signs indicating that she would emerge from her deep sleep. Her mother also passed away in 1904. And a caregiver was arranged to care for Carolina full-time. On April 14, 1908, the caregiver entered Carolina's room and found her crying on the floor. Carolina Olson finally woke up after her 32-year-long sleep. Notably, despite being 46 years old upon waking, Carolina appeared much younger than her age, possibly around 25 to 30 years old. This was another perplexing fact adding to the mystery. News of Carolina's awakening also prompted many to investigate various aspects of her story. Journalists, doctors, as well as many others, out of curiosity, visited her family's home. However, Carolina Olson couldn't provide any information. She remembered nothing of the 32 years of her sleep. It seems that Carolina Olson's case is unique because no other person has been recorded to have been in such a state for so long. However, not everything was rosy after that sleep. Many believed Carolina was a fraud, and the 32-year sleep was staged by her family to attract attention. They couldn't believe she could have survived for so long on just milk and sugar. Carolina underwent a comprehensive health check, and no abnormal signs were found. Her mental faculties remained of a young, intelligent woman, but it was evident she knew very little about her country's history. This could be explained by Carolina living slower than the world for 32 years. The mystery surrounding Carolina Olson. So did Carolina Olson really sleep for 32 years? Although the Olson family claimed she did, there are many things that raise doubts. The caregiver who took care of Carolina claimed to have heard voices upstairs as if Carolina were talking. Objects moved mysteriously, and leftover food disappeared. Psychiatrist Harold Frodestrom once conducted a study to understand what really happened to Carolina. Prior to that, no psychiatrist had examined Carolina, only medical doctors. Dr. Frodestrom concluded that Olson didn't actually sleep for 32 years because the human body couldn't endure such a long period without proper nutrition. He speculated that Carolina had a form of mental disorder caused by a traumatic event. This led her to seek sleep as a way to shield herself from the harsh reality of the world. During this period, her mother seemed to have stood by her, supporting Carolina in concealing the truth that she wasn't actually sleeping entirely. However, Dr. Frodestrom's hypothesis didn't answer the question of why during her hospitalization in 1892, they couldn't wake Carolina up. Carolina led a fairly happy life after her 32-year-long sleep. She passed away in April 1950. To this day, the reason why Carolina slept for so long remains a question mark for medicine. The Strange Woman Who Never Sleeps for 40 Years, experts had to install surveillance cameras to discover a rare condition. Doctors were baffled by the inability to find the cause of a Chinese woman's 40-year insomnia, which kept her healthy. Only when experts intervened did the truth become clear. In 2018, a scientific program on China Central Television, CCTV, reported on a woman who had never slept for over 40 years. Despite numerous hospital visits, all tests conducted on her returned normal results. It wasn't until experts intervened and monitored her continuously for 48 hours that the truth was revealed. The remarkable woman. The extraordinary woman in question is Li Tuanan, who resides in Hubei Province, China. From a young age, Li Tuanan only needed a few hours of sleep each day, with each sleeping session being very brief. Initially, her family was delighted, thinking that their child was energetic and might grow up to be exceptionally intelligent and healthy. However, as Li Tuanan's sleep time continued to diminish, her family started to worry. By the age of 4 to 5, Li would not sleep during the day and slept very little at night. In the evenings, when adults tried to put her to bed, Li Tuanan would pretend to sleep intentionally. However, after closing her eyes for a few minutes, she would enter a highly alert state, unable to close her eyes again, staying awake all night. Due to her habit of pretending to sleep at night, her family did not initially notice this abnormality. What's surprising is that despite Li Tuanan's short sleep duration, her body never experienced fatigue and always had abundant energy during the day. Moreover, she hardly ever fell ill. She was healthier than all her peers. By the age of 10, Li Tuanan could perform many tasks that only adults could do. As she grew older and got married, Li's secret was discovered by her husband. Initially, during the first few months, Li Tuanan pretended to sleep normally at night, so her husband didn't notice. However, one night when her husband woke up to use the restroom, he was surprised to find his wife still awake. The next day, seeing Li Tuanan wake up early and go about her work as usual, he began to worry that something might be wrong with her. After several inquiries, Li Tuanan finally revealed the truth to her husband, who then convinced her to visit a doctor for examination. At first, Li Tuanan was hesitant, fearing that doctors would keep her for research if they knew about her unique condition. Therefore, her husband temporarily abandoned the idea of taking her for a checkup, but he remained concerned. He even bought sleeping pills for her, thinking she might be suffering from insomnia, but they had no effect. Concerned for his wife, he continued to persuade her to see a doctor. This time, Li Tuanan agreed to a health checkup. However, after visiting several hospitals in major cities for examination, both she and her husband were perplexed when no abnormalities were found in her body. The doctors even said they had never seen such a strange case before. From then on, the story of her rare condition spread everywhere. Unraveling the mystery. In 2008, the team responsible for the Science Access segment of CCTV learned about Li Tuanan's story of not sleeping for 40 years. They visited her in hopes that she would agree to undergo in-depth examinations with some scientists to understand the rare condition better. A few days later, a group of experts arrived and installed cameras in Li Tuanan's house. With this, they recorded her entire life for 24 hours, including her eating habits, work schedule, and work intensity. Advanced sensors were also used by these experts, recording every detail of changes in her body. After the first day, these experts were astonished by Li Tuanan's physical strength and energy. She worked twice as many hours a day as others, but never felt tired. The experts also noticed some special aspects of Li Chuanan through many details. For example, during work, she would still rest in a sleep-like state while sitting on the ground or chatting with others. Then her body would immediately recover a lot of energy. On the second day, the expert group discovered something very special about Li Chuanan. And then, the mystery of her decades-long insomnia was finally unraveled. Experts believed that Li Chuanan wasn't not sleeping, she was sleeping differently from normal people. Data from brainwave scans showed that Li Chuanan did go through a light sleep phase like normal people, but not when lying in bed with eyes closed, but rather when resting while communicating with her husband. Through analyzing Li Chuanan's electroencephalogram, EEG, experts also found that during the day, her brain wave oscillations were much smaller than normal. This meant that her physical exertion was less than others, and Li Chuanan could easily fall into a deep sleep, allowing her to recover a lot of physical strength and energy through short rest periods during the day. In this way, during the 48-hour observation, Li Chuanan still rested for 14 hours instead of staying awake like others usually do. Li Chuanan believed she never slept because only a part of her body switched to sleep mode. The rest remained awake rather than resting entirely like normal people. Doctors and experts described this phenomenon as sleeping while awake, a state similar to sleepwalking. They also demonstrated that Li Chuanan's body was very normal, to the point where she was much healthier than others. The female witch with peculiar enchanting abilities. Nina Kulagina, 1926–1990, a woman endowed with extraordinary object-levitating abilities, stirred both controversy and intrigue within the scientific community. When she demonstrated the power to halt the heartbeat of a frog's heart, it prompted the question, could she do the same to a human heart? Conscious of her psychic abilities. Traditionally, hypnosis has been understood as a practice to alter or control a person's mental state, compelling them to follow the suggestions of the hypnotist. However, there exists another form of hypnosis where the subject is not a human but rather inanimate objects, referred to as psychokinesis or telekinesis, the ability to influence the physical world with the mind alone. The witch Nina Kulagina. As a subject of parapsychology, alongside phenomena like clairvoyance, telepathy, and extrasensory perception, psychokinesis has garnered significant interest from scientists. Yet, the mysteries surrounding this phenomenon remain a challenge to humanity. Uri Geller from Israel is perhaps the most recognized psychokinetic individual globally. He gained fame for bending spoons and allegedly stopping the Big Ben clock in England. However, preceding Geller, there was a Russian woman equally renowned for such abilities. She was Nina Kulagina, 1926–1990, acknowledged by many scientists, media, and numerous witnesses as possessing supernatural powers. Nina was born and raised in Leningrad. At the age of 14, her hometown was besieged by Nazi Germany forces. Nina, along with her father and siblings, joined the Soviet army. Living amidst wartime conditions became routine for her, yet she couldn't shake off the horrors of the 900-day siege against the German forces in Leningrad. Nina and others endured constant battles in freezing temperatures, without electricity, water, and with scarce food supplies. After surviving the harrowing 900 days, Nina bore a severe injury from enemy artillery shrapnel. It's unclear if those dreadful days and the brush with death had any special impact on Nina's psyche or nervous system. All that's known is Nina concluded her military service and began to be known for her rare psychic abilities. Nina Kulagina mentioned that even before scientists knew about her, she was aware of her psychic strength. Once, in a fit of rage, Nina approached a shelf where a glass was placed. Strangely, even before reaching out or touching the shelf, the glass suddenly moved and fell to the ground, shattering into pieces. There were other peculiar occurrences in her apartment, like lights flickering on and off and objects moving seemingly influenced by her thoughts. Gradually, she realized that with effort, she could fully control these phenomena. In 1964, Nina suffered a severe nervous breakdown and underwent prolonged treatment in a hospital. To pass the time, she engaged in needlework and embroidery, procuring materials from the hospital. Here, mental health therapists noticed Nina's unique ability to see her colors through touch. She could reach into her sewing basket blindly and pick out the color she desired without looking. Upon recovery, Nina accepted offers from scientists to extensively test her extraordinary abilities. Bizarre experiments. Under the observation of scientists and physicians, Nina moved small objects on a table, like a matchbox or a glass. The movement of objects didn't happen immediately after she looked at them, but took some time. Nina explained that to move objects with her mind, she had to focus her thoughts entirely on the task and clear her mind of all unrelated thoughts. And every time the energy she transmitted was sufficient to move an object successfully, her vision blurred, and she felt a sharp pain in her spine. One of America's scientists, Gaither Pratt from the University of Virginia, suggested that the objects Nina could move varied greatly in shape, material, and weight, and when they moved, they did so slowly and steadily. He speculated that Nina might have used a magnet or something else to move the objects. Dr. Zdeněk Rejdak, a renowned Czech scientist, suggested that closer monitoring was necessary during Nina's experiments. The witch. Zdeněk Rejdak, along with the most prominent scientists, requested Nina to demonstrate her special abilities in a meticulously inspected room where no magnet or any other influencing factor could interfere with the experiment. We carefully examined the surroundings and noticed that Kulagina frequently changed her standing position. She managed to change the orientation of a compass needle without touching it. I placed a cigarette in front of me. She moved it instantly. I tore it open, but there was nothing inside, he said. Nina was also famous for experiments like levitating a ball in midair and moving many other things. Dr. V. F. Schvetz, a physicist, claimed he observed Nina making the letters A or O appear on photographic paper and sometimes even transferring a sketched image she had seen onto photographic paper. Scientists explained that all objects emit radiation in the form of waves, and humans have the ability to perceive and use this information if provided with appropriate tools. And within our 17 billion nerve cells, we only use 10%. Perhaps those with special abilities can tap into these dormant neurons, with Nina being one of them. Claims about Nina Kulagina's secret abilities were not unfounded. Can she stop a human heart? One of Nina's strangest experiments was her alleged ability to affect a live egg placed in a container of salt water 2 meters away from her. Observers of this experiment noted that Nina could slowly separate the yolk from the egg white and move them apart without intense concentration. If she focused her energy for long enough, she could bring them back together. However, the most notorious experiment occurred in the Leningrad laboratory on March 10, 1970. Acknowledging that Kulagina could unconsciously move objects, scientists wondered if she could expand her abilities to separate cells, tissues, or organs in living bodies. Sergeyev, one of the attending scientists, confirmed that Kulagina attempted and succeeded in using her energy to stop the heartbeat of a frog and then make it beat again. She concentrated her attention on the frog's heart and exerted a tremendous amount of energy. Initially, she made it beat faster, then slower, then stopped it altogether, and finally made it beat normally again. The possibility of stopping a frog's heart made many uneasy. If she could do that, could she do the same to a human heart? Whether she possessed such power remains a mystery. Obviously, if she did, scientists and medical professionals would never disclose it. Some speculated that her extraordinary ability, on one hand, brought her fame but on the other hand, might have contributed to her demise. She was declared dead due to heart disease. Nothing particularly different each time she demonstrated her abilities. However, according to the doctors and medical personnel involved in these experiments, before and after each experiment, Nina underwent health and psychological evaluations, and her body was indeed affected. She seemed to use a significant amount of her energy. Her heart rate would increase to 240 beats per minute, her blood sugar levels would spike suddenly, and she would experience a drop in weight. After each instance, she needed prolonged rest to recover her health. Despite her extraordinary abilities, she never exploited them for financial gain, dedicating herself entirely to scientific research. Her health deteriorated towards the late 1980s, forcing her to halt all experiments. She passed away in April 1990. Perhaps the strain of the experiments over the years drained her strength gradually. Russian scientists still mention her not just as someone with extraordinary capabilities, but also as an honest and courageous woman.